All right, guys, I'm back after lunch with two great lectures, and I only have a few minutes to recap. Let me tell you what, because we have a 15-minute break before the lawyers come in. And let me tell you something about the lawyers. Um, they're really expensive. And you may be asking yourself, the Longevity Docs Conference is hosting all of these great peptide experts to talk about peptides and health. And the last two that we're going to talk about right now are pretty famous. Craig Conover and Conover Wellness is very famous with peptides. It takes care of tons of professional athletes, optimizes them, and he had a great talk. And lastly, the second one we're going to talk about, Hippocrates said many times that all disease starts in the gut. And so Dr. Cynthia Keller gave us a master class on her own about gut health and gut peptides. She calls gut tides. And so we're going to talk about those things. But before we do that, I want to tell you that I'm just blown away by yet another mastermind put together by Dr. David Liu and our group, the Longevity Docs, which is over 500 physicians in over 300 cities all over the globe. And we all connect with each other. Trust me, I've got referrals from Canada, Singapore, Australia, and I've sent people out to lots of other places: London, Tokyo, um, uh, Dubai. I could not emphasize this enough. The Longevity Docs are a global community dedicated to longevity. Now, on to the two lectures. First lecture was actually Dr. Conover. And so, one of the things that we've seen with all of these is there are a whole lot of peptides. And so, we could talk through all the peptides, but one of the biggest things I think to take away from Dr. Conover was the fact that you need to care for your patients, right? I think misattributed a quote to Osler is the secret in patient care is caring for the patient. And that's very true. And in this case, what Dr. Conover talks about is intention. Now, most people don't realize this. And so I'm a little bit of a quantum nerd about what we call quantum entanglement and intention. And one of the biggest powers physicians have is the intention to treat, the intent to heal. And just that therapeutic bond right there can create hope in patients. And hope actually creates all sorts of hormonal signaling. And so, what Dr. Conover wanted to talk about was bringing that patient into the divine world. We have so much where we talk about this randomized study and this 100,000 people here and 200,000 there. We've seen the limitations of evidence based medicine. And unfortunately, a lot of evidence based medicine is just jacking the dose up. And we are really to blame about that because we let the pharmaceutical industry drive what we do. And as physicians, we failed to grab the reins again. So there's nothing wrong with that. We need to now grab the reins again because, like Dr. Conover said, COVID happened and now everyone distrusts everyone. So the takeaway message from Dr. Conover's lecture, in my humble opinion, even though he's an expert and we talked about peptides, it was to establish that therapeutic response with the patient. Show them that you care for them when you are caring for them. And I think that that's an abrupt one to say, but I think it's very profound. It is very, very profound. And the takeaway from that is we all need to be more human because we're all patients too. Okay. Next lecture, Cynthia Keller's lecture. Oh, whoa, oh my God. She is Cynthia Keller. Dr. Cynthia Keller is a pediatrician and an integrative functional and longevity physician out in Seattle. And her practice is setting records, caring for patients, and fixing gut health. She believes, rightly so, that a lot of disease happens in the gut. And so her lecture was to review gut peptides. And she has a breakdown in terms of 5 layers of the gut and 5 strategies to use to heal. The first and most important one is the barrier of the gut. And so if you really want to think about that, it is a 32 square meter zone that has to be treated. So, for a reference, it's like a New York City studio apartment. So, you have to treat that entire studio apartment floor worth of cells. Now, it's only one layer of cells, but it has 40 trillion bugs in them. So, we have to interact with 40 trillion bacteria. And those bacteria, some good, some bad, will help heal us or hurt us. And so, she talked a lot about what is called the gut barrier, right? And so we have these tight junctions that hold our cells together. And predominantly they're held together with these tight junctions. But there's a chemical called zonulin that was actually isolated from a bacteria that called cholera that caused us to leak all sorts of fluid, and you end up dying from diarrhea. Well, cholera has this molecule called zonulin that will break apart our tight junctions and cause us to have a leaky gut. But what Dr. Keller also said is that zonulin will also break the blood brain barrier and can cause leaky brain. Well, that's mind blowing, right? So if zonulin can affect the blood brain barrier, we can have neuroinflammation in the brain, and that's neurodegenerative disease. So theoretically, the same molecule that's messing with our gut messes with our brains. That's number one. Number two, lorazepam, the peptide that she predominantly talked about, blocks zonulin. It, in essence, blocks zonulin. So one of the things she recommended was actually taking lorazepam when you have an acute COVID infection. Why? Because COVID destroys our gut bacteria. It'll break them all apart, and it will prevent us from making the good small chain fatty acids that we need for mitochondrial health, that we need for reduction of inflammation. And so she talked about these layers, right? And so layer one, you got to fix the barrier, and that's lorazepam. She then talked about the next layer down, which is being able to make sure that the colonocytes get good nutrients and the gut stays reduced with inflammation. And so you have to beat back the bad bacteria. And you do that with a peptide called LL37. The problem with LL37 is it may make you more inflamed. And so that's a problem because it's like an antibiotic and it can trigger things and make them irritated. So if you go to the next level, which is thymosin alpha 1 that she talked about to help work through that inflammatory immunomodulatory fashion. And I think that's very important. Next up, she talked about rebuilding the barrier, and you rebuild the barrier with BPC and KPV. And that is what she calls gut tides. Gut tides. In between all of those, there's a thin layer of butyrate where she says, if your body can't make enough butyrate, give your body butyrate to heal. And so these were very powerful protocols. And in fact, she gave us a gut detox protocol, which I'll cover in detail on the Substack later on. I'll have a deep dive into butyrate and her gut protocol. So those are the lectures from the post launch. I'm not sleeping. No one's sleeping. Next up, we're going to reveal the legal problems, quandaries, and how to handle a compliant peptide practice for you, for your patients, or if you're a biohacker, to show to your doctor to help you out. Okay, so love your patients because the secret in patient care is caring for the patient. And we care for you guys. I appreciate all of you being on, and all my patients that are actually tuned in right now. You know I love you all. All right. Thank you all very much. We'll see you in a little bit with the legal strategies and the last wrap-up sessions for the Longevity Docs Peptide Mastermind, October 4th, 2025. Here is to a life well lived. Oh, yeah. Hi, Dr. Laverde. All right. Got to go. Back to lectures. Talk to you soon.